Hey everybody, welcome back to the Personal Transformation Podcast. In this episode, I am joined by Blake Lefkoe. Now, Blake is a facilitator of the Lefkoe Method. That's right. She has her own method. It's not hers, it's her dad. We were just talking about this. Imagine this. Imagine growing up in a family of therapists and people talking about personal development and being your best self all the time. There's going to be one person that says, nah, I'm not having any of that. And this is Blake, right? This is Blake. Blake is, grew up in that space, but then came back to it. So there's some interesting journey there that has helped her kind of go through some challenges and come back to realize, okay, well, this is the way forward. So Blake, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us, and looking forward to hearing about your journey.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
So I'm trying not to put too much pressure on you, but we all have these moments, right? Our journey is our journey. And, I think if we can figure out what the chapters are, and there's a movie that I love, which is The Pursuit of Happiness. And he says, in this part of my life, I call this part of my life, I call running, this part of my life, I call. So I think we all have these chapters where we do something and effectively you get to the end of the movie, like, oh, it all makes sense. So we're not near the end of the movie yet, but, hopefully we're kind of getting into the calm piece and all of the craziness has happened. But we're going to talk about getting unstuck. And this has been kind of your personal experience, but also the kind of work that you do now with the Lefkoe Method to help people get unstuck and start living a life they're a little bit more passionate about. Let's kind of go into your space. How did you get stuck? You grew up in the perfect environment, so if you can get stuck, we're all screwed. But how did you get stuck, or how did you get into a situation where you realized that you weren't in the place that you wanted to be?
Yeah, so I grew up with, two people, personal development, personal growth, always this and that. And I just wanted to rebel against that, because I feel like what we do as children. We look at what our parents do. We're like, oh, I'm going to do the opposite. So it kind of turned into this hedonistic, I just want to do what I want, when I want, and I want to party, and I want to have fun, and I want to date boys, and this and that. And then I started traveling, and it kind of turned from this fun, carefree, hedonistic to then there was some darkness there, right? And when you start drinking and you start not dealing with your problems and you're not talking about them and you're suppressing them, they don't just go away. So the fun, there was fun, but it definitely just kind of took a turn. And at one point I woke up in my late 30s and I was a single mom, getting out of the most ridiculous relationship that just got on for far too long. I'm an avid water woman. My back was out. I was out of the water. I was in pain. I was bartending, been in the restaurant industry for 30 years. And I just woke up and I was like, what am I doing? I'm unfulfilled. This is not sustainable. My kid deserves a better mother. I'm in mental pain, physical pain. It was right after Halloween. So I'd been working and drinking and partying and also taking my son trick-or-treating. And it was just this is not, none of this is okay. And I just had this moment. It was that aha moment where I was no, I can't even get out of this, right? It was oh, another unstable relationship and another, And so I found my way back to the Lefkoe Method. I was so fortunate that I had that tool in my toolbox. I also sat with some plant medicine, and that was kind of a good jarring, just a reality change, just kind of shook everything up a bit.
Yep.
And I started working on myself and was able to really 180 my life and get unstuck, because it's hard to get out of the restaurant industry, right? We all have that thing where but how do I move away from this thing and still function?
Yeah.
So
all right, well, we're going to dive into all of those aspects. I'm curious. So this morning you woke up. What was different about this morning? Because I've been there, right? I had this morning, and I just, I can remember it clearly in my head. It was just a transformational morning where I'm sick of this. I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm living two lives. I'm not even living two lives. I'm not living the life I should be. And I just ran out of the ability to BS myself. It wasn't even other people. It's myself. that was mine. What was different about this morning for you? How did it feel different, or what happened in your head that made this a transformational morning?
That's a great question. I think it was a sense of just like utter, I was so unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And it was so unsustainable. And I was so hungover, and I was in so much emotional pain, and I was in so much physical pain, and I was heartbroken. And, I just like, I couldn't remember the end of Halloween. I couldn't remember the end of taking my kid trick-or-treating. And I was just like, who does that? Like, what kind of mother are you? Like, yeah, your son had a great time and you had all his friends over and pizza and candy and all the things, and he got to stay up late, but like, you're missing out on it. Like, you're not present. You're not here. Like, what's the point of doing it if you're not even gonna remember it? Like, I was so not present in my life. And like whatever the opposite of mindfulness is, like that's what it was, And I was just like, I'm gonna go back to work, and I'm gonna drink at work, and I'm gonna get off of work, and I'm gonna drink more. It was just like, I felt like we deserved so much better, and I just couldn't go on, and not being able to go surf because my back was hurting, and then not doing anything about my back hurting except drinking and taking things. And yeah, it was just this culmination of like, what am I doing? Like, how did I get here?
Yeah. Was it an addiction, or was it just a coping strategy? Is there a difference?
Ooh, I think that when coping strategies become out of your control and you don't know any other way to cope, I think they can become an addiction. And I think healthy things can become an addiction when you use something to escape in an unhealthy way. Like when my son was little and everyone was like, oh, it's great that he loves audiobooks so much. And I'm like, yeah, but it's unhealthy. And they're like, but at least it's healthy. And I'm like, but when you do something healthy in an unhealthy manner, it's better than him doing drugs, yes. But when you're using something to escape reality because you can't function in it, and you can't go without that thing, and you can't be present, that's an addiction, right? So there's obviously a grand scale of that, and everyone wants to check out once in a while. That's totally fine, right? We watch TV, we go to the movies, we have a drink, we do these things to escape. But what's the energy behind it? Had a long day, I'm tired, I just want to check out. Cool, right? It's a different energy. But when you have that energy of needing, wanting, not being able to go without it, you see that look in someone's eye. I have to go run. I have to go. You're like, well,
who are you running away from? Is there some demons that are chasing you, right? So
yeah, you're not dealing with,
Yeah, and like you say, we know what the typical addictions are. Drugs, alcohol. You talk about, other people. We have those. Then we have the less significant or less obvious ones. Computer games is a huge one. I know that I've used this historically, and just the ability to escape into another world. There was this. Do you remember Second Life? I don't know how old I am now, but remember there was that idea of Second Life, is you could create this avatar. I think it's now the metaverse or whatever.
Okay.
We create these other alternative realities where we can be someone else. Like I also play Dungeons and Dragons, and so there's a healthy transference of my energy into a little tiny plastic character that I can be for a couple of hours. But I don't want to go and live as that person unless I'm trying to desperately avoid things. So I think you're right. And then exercise is a huge one. Is I'm a bodybuilder now. People are still like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I think I've got a hang of it." But there's definitely been times where I've needed it as an avoidance thing, and needed it as I need to escape a pretty challenging time in my life. But it's avoidance, right? So what was it you were avoiding? Like, what was the thing that you were kind of not wanting to face up to?
I think just all my my garbage, my crap. I don't know what we're allowed to say on here, but you know,
say
like,
whatever word we want. Somebody will beep it out, but it's not going to be me.
You know, it was just like all the negative things I thought about myself and life, and then that keeps you stuck. So then you're not kind of living up to your potential, doing these other things. So then you don't want to think about that, right? And then the mistakes you made, or the this, that, and so in the work that I do, we really look at beliefs, right? And people have negative beliefs about themselves, life, relationships, money, other people. And what happens as a result, so for example, the number one belief most people have is I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're young, you know, you look at your surroundings, and 4, 5, 6 years old, you just want to know why. Why this? Why is dad not this? Why is mom this? And we don't have the brain capacity at that age to say, you know, my dad's working a lot because he's trying to make money to like put a roof over our head and pay for everything. We go, he's not here, I must not be important, right? Mom's busy, dad's drinking, whatever it is. We don't go, oh, my dad's really emotionally unintelligent, you know, like, and he doesn't know how to deal with his emotions, and he's an alcoholic, therefore he treats me this way. We go, oh, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough. Or we have the other end of the spectrum, right? The overachieving dad who's just, oh, you know, why did you get a B? Why didn't you get 100 on the test? Why didn't you get the bonus question, right? You know, oh, your room's clean, but it's not clean because what about your closet? And you did the dishes, but you didn't empty the sink drain. You didn't do a good job, right? So it's, oh, I'm not good enough. And it's hard to go through life feeling that way. So we create these survival strategies, and it's all subconscious, right? Just like forming beliefs, we don't go, oh, I'm not good enough, right? It's just this kind of story we start to tell ourselves subconsciously. Yeah. And then what happens is you get some kind of positive affirmation, reinforcement, right? You do something and you get a positive response. And for some people, for some girls, that's looking pretty. For some people, it's being successful or achieving or, you know, making money, whatever it is. So, you know, you get that A, right? You win the spelling bee, you make varsity, you score that goal. And all of a sudden your dad's like, oh, good job, sonny boy, I'm proud of you. And you go, oh, I see. The way to be good enough is to achieve things, right? And then you go through life feeling like I have to achieve things because that's what makes me good enough. And again, it's not conscious, but you look at those people and you know them, right? Saturday, I'm going to my son's game. I'm going to be there. And then a work meeting comes up and you're like, no, I have to achieve. I have to be more successful. And you see these people that are like, oh, I want to spend more time with my family and I want to work less and I want to, you know, call the boys and have a boys' night and put more time and energy into my friends, but they can't because they're stuck in this cycle of feeling like they have to achieve. And it's never enough, right? It always has to be more. And with that, you see this pattern, especially with money, when people feels like what makes them good enough is earning money. Oh, when I have this house, I'll be happy. When I have this car, I'll be happy. When I have this amount. But when you're looking for an external thing, it's a survival strategy. It's never going to happen. It's never going to be enough.
Yeah. And there's always the next one. There's always a bigger, better. Right. You never get all the way to the end.
So when you can go back and eliminate the belief, like get rid of the belief I'm not good enough, and get rid of the survival strategy, what makes me good enough is X, Y, or Z. Now all of a sudden you have the freedom to make choices. It doesn't mean you're not going to get off the couch. It doesn't mean you're going to stop achieving. You're not going to be successful anymore. But now it gives you a choice. What's important to me in this moment? Right? It gives you the possibility and the freedom to decide how you want to live your life. And that's huge, right? Because it's like, yeah, I want to go to the gym. I want to be fit. I want to make money. I want to do these things, but at what cost? Right? Am I sacrificing my happiness, my relationships, my children, right? Like, and finding that balance is amazing. Took me 40 something years, but like balance is, oh my God.
It's tough, right? I think because you know, if I look back at points in my life that have come close, like those sliding door moments where it could have gone one way, it could have gone another, is that there's times where you can easily fall into addictive behaviors and you mentioned it, like if things are around, if things are close by, you could easily make a certain choice. But we have this realization all the time. I think is I know we know we're not happy, we're not satisfied. So we've always got this opportunity to say, okay, well, I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go and do it. But is that moment for people where they have to face, like, and is it that they can't say that they don't believe in themselves or they don't feel good enough? Is that what people are trying to avoid when they take on like an addiction or do something to avoid that? What is it? Because it's something that they're trying, like they've been repelled against something. Like you said, you're rebelling against something when you kind of get into that negative.
Sure.
What is it that kicks off the addiction?
I think there's different pieces. I think there's a lot of people that have beliefs like I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy, I'm not important, what I want doesn't matter, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough, right? And if you have these kinds of beliefs, a lot of the times they're going to keep you from going after what you want. They're going to keep you from realizing you're worth treating well, right? And it's funny because sometimes it can be the same beliefs but different survival strategies that cause the one person to be a complete overachiever and the other to be a junkie. Yeah. Right? It's the same core beliefs, but it's the survival strategies that you use to deal with them. And there's this movie, Get Him to the Greek, and it's like one of my favorite lines. And the guy was like a junkie, right? But then he just started doing yoga 10 hours a day. His girlfriend's like, "You're still a junkie. Like you just do yoga 10 hours a day instead." But like you didn't deal with yourself. Like you're still
you're putting a plaster over the top of stuff.
And so it's like, are you working 80 hours a week, or are you an alcoholic sitting, and it's like you're still not functional, right? And you still have all this stuff. So when you get rid of those beliefs, I'm not worthy, and what makes me worthy is having lots of money, right? Or I'm not deserving. And it's the same thing with people pleasing, right? What makes me good enough is having other people think well of me, right? What I want isn't important. My needs and wants aren't important. The way to whatever is to make other people happy. And then you get to a place where you don't even know what you want anymore. You don't even know what you're like because you're so busy giving your energy to others to have them like you, because then you feel like you're okay.
Yeah.
So all of these things, getting rid of these beliefs, these survival strategies, you can still be really nice to people, right? People can still like you. But again, it's the energy, it's the come from. Now it doesn't run me because I don't need it. It's nice to have, but I can subsist without it. And you can start to bring in more meaningful things into your life, be they relationships, passions, jobs, children, friendship, whatever it is, because it's coming from a healthy place, right? Like when you get to a place where you're sustainable and happy and you like yourself, now you can bring in a partner that feels the same, and you guys can have this amazing relationship because you want each other and it feels good and you help each other, but you don't need each other.
And so what comes first then? What comes first? Because this is the whole chicken and egg thing, right? Let's say I'm in the worst situation. Hate my job, hate my relationship, hate my life, hate everything. I'm in a terrible situation. A lot of people say, right, if I get another job, if I go and do something different, then I'll be happy. And then they get there, and then a year later, they're in exactly the same situation. I hate my job this much. Which comes first? Because there's an argument that says changing your environment changes your ability and like the things that you'll feel differently. But also there's this argument of like, say, change your beliefs, because then you might be in the same situation, but you'll feel differently about it. So what do you think?
I say if you change your beliefs, your entire life can change, because not only can you start to be happy, right? But so when you have a belief, life is hard, life is a struggle, whatever it is, right? Work sucks. I have to work really hard to make money. You're wearing these glasses, and all you're doing is looking for more examples to prove that you're right. And what you're going to do is find them, and you're going to attract them, and that's what you're going to see. When you believe relationships don't work, that is what you are going to see.
And by the way, you'll see it everywhere. This is the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg just watched a video. They're changing the moderation things, but Facebook feeds, Instagram feeds, Twitter feeds, LinkedIn feeds, they know you so well that they put the information in front of you that you want to hear. This is what the algorithm does. It gives you stuff that you'll engage with. So if you've got a belief, like you say, that life is hard, it's going to put stuff that says life is really hard at the moment, isn't it? And you'll be like, yes, like. But same thing is like, I hate my relationship. Relationships are terrible. Here's all these like divorce gurus, or I hate my job. Here's career change gurus. It's like, what? How is this? You don't even need. You just say it, and like, my phone is here. It knows. Yeah. This afternoon, I'm going to get so many adverts for all of these things. It's crazy. But this is confirmation bias, right? This is confirmation. Yeah. This is our mind, our psychology saying, oh, look, here's all the things that reinforce my state and my beliefs. So, yeah, like these glasses we talk about.
So it's the glasses. So it's what you see, and it's what shows up for you. It's what you attract, right? You could have the belief, I only, attract married men. And that is what's going to happen. That's what you're going to attract. That's what's going to show up for you. So when you eliminate this belief, it's like you're taking the glasses off. Now all of a sudden you start to see other things. Other things start showing up differently, right? You're creating this space for change. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because there's this moment when the belief goes away, and all of a sudden, right? Like, I had a friend that said, relationships are hard or whatever it was. And the second it went away, she was like, oh my God. She was like, well, my best friend's in a super healthy relationship. Her and her husband love each other. And then she was like, and my neighbors get along so well. And she's like, and with this person, and all of a sudden it was like they were there, but she couldn't even see them because she had this belief, and all that was showing up was these other things. So it was really interesting. And so when you eliminate these beliefs, you create space for other things to show up. You stop searching to prove that the other thing is right. And so it's not just that now all of a sudden you can be happy in this job you're in. You're going to create space for a job that resonates with you to show up, right? And there's so many different ways. And I have so many stories of, I had a client once, and she got rid of the belief. It was something about, people aren't interested in what I do, or just something like that, right? We get off the call, and her phone rings 2 seconds later, and someone was like, I just found your website and I want to book a session. This is so interesting. I've been looking for someone that does this, and like that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Yep.
And alternately, like, I had a client who came. Her parents were like, you're going to be a lawyer and you're going to be a straight A student, and that's it. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And you can't do what you love and make money. You have to be a lawyer. It's the only way. And she was like, I hate my job. I worked so hard. I'm making this money. And she was like, and I'm miserable. And 5 sessions, she started her own company. She started getting clients, and she was able to do something. Before, she was like, I wouldn't even know what I would do. My whole life, I've been a lawyer. I haven't even been able to think about it. And she eliminated this one belief. And in that moment, she goes, Blake, not only can I see myself doing something else, I know what I want to do with my life. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like taking away these things that are limiting, these cages we live in, these beliefs. And now all of a sudden there's possibility, and we can see what we like and what we want and what we resonate with, and attract these people and these jobs and these situations into our lives. And we're also not putting out there, life is hard, it sucks, and you're not bringing that with you. So you can be happier in the job you're in, and you can also make space for something amazing to show up as well.
Yeah. There's this quote, isn't it? It's before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. You just see it entirely differently. So help me out. How do I identify some of these beliefs? Like, how do I number? Because it sounds like at first I got to figure them out, and then secondly, once I figured out what some of those are, how do I start to shake them and kind of break it down a little bit?
So the best way that I know is to do this process, right? Because people come to me with a pattern, a behavioral or an emotional pattern, right? I do this thing I don't want to do. I don't do this thing I do want to do. I'm depressed. I drink too much, I stay in toxic relationships, I have anxiety, I have fear, I procrastinate. That's a huge one. I have social anxiety, whatever it is. So you establish a pattern. And then you look, what are the beliefs that cause that pattern? So procrastination is a huge one, right? I'm not good enough. Nothing I do is good enough. Mistakes and failures are bad. If I make a mistake, I'll be rejected. It's dangerous to stand out, right? All these, and everyone's different. So there's a lot that are the same, but everyone has their specific, I'm not safe. The way to be safe is to not do anything, to not be seen, to not be noticed, right? Whatever it is. And as you start eliminating those beliefs, the pattern just shifts. And what's so cool is I've done other modalities, like plant medicine's amazing, but there's an integration, right? And there's this, you have to remember this thing and things are different. And there's nothing for this. There's no homework. There's no, okay, I'm in this situation and I have to remember. There's none of that. Like you literally nullify triggers and you just start acting and feeling and thinking differently because you're taking these huge things that you've been carrying, right? All of these glasses, these things, and they're gone. And so you're able to get to a situation now, say, oh, what do I want to do here? So belief elimination is, to me, the biggest, best way. The next best thing that you can do on your own, and you don't need somebody else, is when you get to a place and you have a negative emotion, right? You get triggered. And the best way to do it is to start small, not huge triggers, little triggers, right? You're driving and somebody cuts you off. You go into the store and someone doesn't say hello to you. And you catch these things by going, oh, I feel this negative thing, right? So you stop and you go, what meaning did I give that? Right? I walk into the store, my friend doesn't say hi to me. I go, oh, it probably means she's mad at me. She doesn't like me. I did something wrong, right? So here's the key piece, and this is for this tool and for the beliefs in general. Events in and of themselves don't have meaning. They have consequences. Consequences are very real. Consequences can be hard and painful, but they don't mean anything. I don't know anything for sure about you, who you are as a person, anything, because your dad beat you as a child, because he called you names, because he never was there, because he left, because anything, right? They don't mean anything about you. The meaning you give to those events, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough, she doesn't like me, right? That's what causes our emotions. That's what causes our thoughts. That's what causes addiction. That's what causes all these things. So we take a meaningless event, we give it a meaning. Now it's our truth. Now it's the story we tell ourselves, and that's what's going to show up forever. That's what's the emotion, right? So when you take that belief away, when you get rid of that belief, now all of a sudden that emotion is gone because it doesn't have that meaning. On a much smaller scale, woman in the store doesn't smile at me and I give it these meanings. Wait, what else could it mean? Maybe she has a headache. Maybe her dog died. Maybe she's sick and she doesn't want to talk. Maybe she's fighting with her boyfriend. And if she says hi to me, she's going to start crying in the store and she doesn't want to. So she's pretending she doesn't see me, right? Maybe she is mad at me, but that's her values. And as far as my values, I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe she's mad at me, but if she doesn't tell me what it is that she's mad at, I can't do anything. So, right? But there's just so many things that it could mean. And it could, even if she doesn't like us, it doesn't mean I'm not likable. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. And 9 times out of 10, it's got nothing to do with me anyway. It's her own thing, right? Maybe she didn't see me. we just don't know. And so we give things meaning constantly. And if you can stop and realize that the meaning is in your mind, it's not actually in the event, you can dissolve the meaning and then the feeling goes away.
It's so fun. Because my daughter does that at the moment. She's like, my friend didn't hear me in the playground. I shouted at her and she ignored me. It's like, I can hear them now. Like the playground's just at the end of the street. Is it that she didn't hear you? Did she ignore you? Did she just not hear you? Was it like lots of kids playing? Yeah. It's like, okay, so what do you think it means? Like, oh, okay, maybe. But we jump straight into it, right?
And it's interesting because it's the ones, and you can do it at night when you're laying in bed and you can't fall asleep because that thing that happened that's still triggering you and you're still annoyed, right? That's the one. And as you get better at it, you can start doing it faster and like
Yeah.
right in the moment, and for bigger things, because for bigger things it gets harder, right? But it's amazing because when you start doing this, you're able to free yourself from a lot of these things, right? And sometimes, yeah, we have to feel negative emotions. Like they're part of life. Suffering is a part of life. But how long do you stay there? And at what point are you kind of wallowing and stuck? And at what point are you just like, I'm going through this process, I'm feeling this thing, and I'm allowing myself to come out the other end.
Yeah.
And it's when we get stuck there and we can't let ourselves go, right? You know, and you see it in kids, right? Oh, you know, she didn't hear me in the playground, she ignored me, and now I'm sad, she doesn't like me, and there's something wrong with me, right? And we can help our kids with that by, well, what else could it mean, and what else, and this and that, right? And but we don't do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that tool is amazing. And like eliminating beliefs. So my son's father, not a very healthy person, not a very happy person, addictions, right? A lot of things. He's the same person that he was when we couldn't be in the same room and we argued and fought, right? Our relationship is completely different now because of how I show up, because of the space that I give him, because of, right? So it's like he didn't change, but I changed, and I'm able to give him space to show up differently. And when he doesn't, I can disengage and go, yeah, like he might be super wrong and it might be insane that he's saying that because it's so not true, but I don't need to engage. I know that. And I don't have to tell him that. And so I can walk away. Whereas before I'd be like, how can you see that? You're crazy. That's wrong. I don't do this and right. Which doesn't help anything. But now I'm like, cool. Good for you.
People are
You
going
have
to be
good.
listening to this saying,
No,
oh, I have no idea
I'm
what she's talking about. No, this never happens in my
out, you
life
know?
at all.
You're right. And so when you free yourself, because I'm not giving it that meaning anymore. I'm not giving it the meaning that he's right. I'm giving it no meaning. That's him being him, right? Ram Dass has this quote, you know, you don't go to the forest and go, God, if only that pine tree was more like that birch tree. If only that elm tree was more like a banyan tree. But we do that with people. Oh, if only this person was more like this. But I'm like, look at him. He's being the best version of himself. And if I expect him to be differently and I get disappointed, that's on me. So, you know, and so it's meaning, right? It's meaning, it's beliefs, and being able to not engage with things, with people that don't serve us. Again, that energy that come from, can I have, me personally, I don't choose to, but can I go out and have a drink to celebrate a thing? Because it's not like I need it, I'm not craving it, I'm not doing it to deal with this and that. It's like, yeah, I'm celebrating and this is what's happening and it feels good. Great, do that thing.
I was going to ask what your relationship was with your chosen addictions, because I know, you know, a lot of people will say, especially on the addiction side, if you go through the 12-step programs, is you have to become sober. You have to just completely ignore it, and you'll always be like an addict, and it'll always be just there, you know, out of reach or within reach, which is even scarier. When you go through this process of just kind of eliminating the beliefs and kind of neutralizing the triggers and various bits and pieces, how do you look at the addiction piece? How do you look at the
So
substance
it takes away that need, right? Like I was telling you this before. So even like my healthy ocean things, right? Surfing, wing foiling, toe foiling, right? Like I live in the ocean. I love it. It's my passion, but it was unhealthy. You know, when my son was really little, I'd be like, hey, you wanna go to the beach? I'll take you to the beach. You can watch my baby. Hey, if he starts crying, here's a towel, wave me in, you know? It's insane. And like I couldn't not. And if I wasn't, instead of enjoying being at home with my kid, being like, oh my God, you're so cool. You're this being I created and I love you. It was just like, oh my God, I'm not surfing. The world's going to end. And so even being able to have a healthy relationship with that, right? And I still do it. I still love it. It's still like what lights me up and I'm passionate, But now if I can't go, like, it's okay. I can be at my son's baseball game and I can be present and I can be stoked and I can be mindful in there and like cheering him on instead of in the back of my head going, oh my God, it's windy. I could be winging. Right. And so when you work on the stuff underneath, you're able to, I worked with an alcoholic who was like just such a dysfunctional human. He was so depressed. He couldn't hold a job. He couldn't hold a relationship. In the beginning, he would like miss sessions because he would go on week-long vendors and I'd just be like waiting on Zoom for him and, just never show up. And by the end, like he was holding a job. Nothing was stressing him out anymore. He was talking to his family. His ex-wife was like, I don't even recognize you. Like you look different. He was spending money differently. Like everything was different. And completely stopped drinking. And then at the end, he was like, my dad came over and I had a beer with my dad. And then he left and I went out and did yard work. And I was like, wow, like that's amazing. He changed his beliefs to the point where he was able to just have one.
Mm-hmm.
I love my life without alcohol.
Yep.
I went from being an alcoholic bartender. So, and everyone that I hung out with was drank all the time. So to me, having a life without it, I really love. If friends come over and they bring a bottle of wine and they want to drink it, like I have no problem being around it. But it doesn't serve me anymore. It doesn't feel good. I'm so happy without it. I can relax without it. I can celebrate without it. It just doesn't have that appeal to me anymore. And alcohol is tricky because there is kind of a physical piece to it, physical addiction piece to it, right? You have one and then you physically kind of just want one more.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel so much better. I sleep so much better. My surfing is better. My mindfulness, my everything. But with like random kind of party favors once a year, twice a year, you go out dancing. It's a friend's birthday. It's an anniversary. I went a year completely sober with no substances. And then I was like, let me see if I can bring certain things back in a healthy manner. And if I can do this thing and do it one night and have it in my room and not touch it for 6 months, I'm good. And I'm able to do that, it's in a healthy way. Oh, it's a celebration for this thing. Let's do this thing and have this experience.
You're not using it to get away from something because there's nothing to get away from.
Yeah, exactly. That's put so well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, and I know what I'm doing this afternoon. I'm writing down all of the beliefs and things that kind of get in the way and trying to recognize those patterns. I think what you said there is identifying those patterns, those behaviors that we go through. Because I think, for me, getting stuck and ultimately getting unstuck, it's breaking that loop. It's breaking that pattern of things that we do most of the time. If we're really honest with ourselves, we know what we're doing, and we can see it. We can see it quite clearly. We might give it the wrong reasons. We might give it the wrong meanings. And we might have an intention that we're trying to do something, but it ends up a different way. But if we take a moment and we just look at the situation, we're like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing. I know what's going on. Yeah. And it's like you say, it's unpicking the beliefs that go into that, the triggers that kind of going into that. And then, figuring out what a different way of looking at those things could be.
Yeah. And it's, it's even like a really common one is parenting. And when you start doing this belief work, you start seeing it in so many aspects of your life, right? Your relationships and your self-talk and your work and like everything starts to shift. And one of the things that's interesting with parenting is, people have beliefs, children should be this, or parenting is this, or, if my child talks back, then it means they're disrespecting me, right? And so you get angry, right? So one meaning is they're disrespecting you. One is they feel so close to you. They love you so much that they're able to voice their opinion because they know you love them.
Yeah.
They're not scared of you, right? So they're not being disrespectful. They're actually showing you that they feel safe and comfortable and love you and want to engage in a thing, right? My son's like, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, well, I got it. But if I'm like, oh my God, he's disrespecting me, then I scream back at him, then he screams at me, then he cries. Like it doesn't serve anybody. So realizing that, you know, even the way we treat our children, that we treat our spouses, that we treat our our friends, you know, like most of the way we talk to our kids, we would never speak to anybody that way.
Yeah.
But somehow it's okay because of the, you know, these meetings. So if
Yeah, having a 5-year-old girl definitely makes shines a light on certain human behaviors for sure.
yeah, it brings all your beliefs up. And there's so the Lefkoe Institute is what my dad founded. And my mom works there and also has clients with people. And they do some really neat courses. And there's a course called the Occurring course, and it teaches you to dissolve meaning. Right. And there's all these different ways. There's the one I said about, you know, kind of alternative interpretations. What else could it mean? But there's like 10 different modalities to do that. And through the course, you have homework and you start doing it every day, and you set a timer and you do it every hour, and all of a sudden you start doing it automatically. And it's so cool at the end of this 10-week course to see what people are like, oh my God, you know, my husband said this and I didn't even get mad, or this happened or that happened. Like you just start to free yourself from all these excessive negative emotions, all these triggers. And there's other facilitators. It's amazing. You know what I mean? 5 sessions you can, because it's not like therapy. You don't just go and talk. Like you go, you have a few sessions, your pattern shifts, and you're on your merry way, right? There's no upkeep, there's no integration. And there's also a natural confidence package that they sell, that if you know you can't afford a facilitator, that's not your thing. It's kind of like an automated program, and it takes you through I think it's like the 20 basic kind of core self-esteem beliefs. And that's, I don't know, that's super affordable. So there's a lot of different ways.
We'll put some, you know, I'm sure after this people are like, yeah, I need to start looking at my beliefs, start looking at my triggers, start to figure these things out. Blake's given me some good ideas. So we'll put links to the Lefkoe Institute and all of those tools and resources in the show notes. But Blake, this has been phenomenal. Is it, you got one last chance to say something? What's the one takeaway you want people to kind of really stick in their head as a result?
Yeah, life doesn't have to look any way. Like life can look like whatever you want it to. Doesn't, you know, people think life has to look like this. It has to be a 9 to 5, or it has to be this. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be whatever works for you. And if you get the stuff that's keeping you stuck out of your way, you can live a life aligned with your passions and values. It's authentic to you and feels good, and it's exciting to wake up in the morning.
Beautiful. Well, for those of you listening, go and spend some time, look at those beliefs, look at those triggers, find a way to break them down. And yeah, Blake and the Lefkoe Institute, then check out some of their tools and resources, and keep us posted. Let us know how you get out, and you know, recognize those patterns changing. Like you say, we can all live a life that we're happy.
Thank you so much. This has been awesome.
It has been a lot of fun. So thanks, Blake. And for those of you listening, thanks for joining us. Hope you took plenty away, and I'll see you on the next episode.